Hey there, Pastor Mark here. It's our prayer that this message would encourage and equip you in your relationship with Jesus. We're able to provide this content due to the joyful generosity of our financial partners. And if you'd be willing to join that tribe and help get some sermons like this around the world, you can donate at harvestbaptist.info/give. God bless.
Let's go to John 5. We're going to start there this morning. We are kind of rounding out our Christmas sermon series called Christmas Lights. Out of curiosity, how many of you all had a light bright in your home when you were growing up or when your children were growing up? Anyone have a light bright? I see some smiles. I'm bringing back some nostalgia right now. I know. Light brights were, those were like 90s when, maybe they were before the 90s. I don't know. But that's when I experienced them, along with Cabbage Patch dolls and Tamagotchi and Chia Pets and lava lamps and all the things. But light brights were awesome. We had one in our house. We played with it all the time. Little box, white box with a light in the back of it with a black piece of paper that went over it, and you had these little pegs, right? And the pegs were green and blue and yellow and white, and they didn't have any light in them, but you plugged them in to the light bright, and all of a sudden they began to glow. They began to receive the light and then transmit the light, and they'd make these beautiful shapes and all these sorts of things. We are coming to the end of our Christmas light series, and we've seen all month long that Isaiah told us Jesus would be a light for darkness, that God would become a baby boy, and in so doing would light up the darkness. We have seen that Zacharias prophesied that a heavenly sunrise was going to dawn, and we were going to receive the light of salvation and forgiveness of sins. We've seen the disciples say that Jesus was the light that was come for us. We've seen Jesus himself declare that I am the light of the world. All of this has been about Jesus, how he is the light for darkness. He is the light of the world. That on Christmas, a light came for us. Jesus is the Christmas light. And this morning, we're going to round out our conversation by understanding there's this moment in Matthew chapter number 5 where Jesus looks at his followers and he says, "You're the light of the world. Let your light go shine before men." And you're almost left wondering, Jesus, are you the light of the world or am I the light of the world? And the answer is, well, both. Jesus is the light, but you can receive his light, and in turn, you can be a glow, and you can begin to transmit that light. You can be like a little light bright plug. You can plug into him, receive the light, and let it glow, and people can see his light through you. And I want us to observe a few different moments in the life of John the Baptist, in the life of the Apostle Paul, and even in our own lives, where we see very clearly how it is that we can let the light of Jesus shine through us. That this Christmas light can in turn light us up. I want you to first see John the Baptist in John chapter number 5. We've seen John the Baptist on a number of occasions, actually. We saw him in Zacharias' prophecy in Luke 1. We saw him in John 1. And now we see him again through this series in John 5. And Jesus says, "You sent unto John, and John bore witness unto the truth." Then he says in verse 34, "I receive not testimony from man, but these things I say that ye might be saved." So Jesus is sure to give a qualifier. Listen, I do not need man's testimony to validate my ministry. I do not need the stamp of approval from John or from any other person. That's not how this works. Like, I am the Savior, I am the Son of God, I am the light of the world, whether someone says that I am or not. However, you went to John and John actually told you the truth. John bore witness unto the truth. He, verse 35, was a burning and a shining light, and you were willing for a season to rejoice in his light. What is he saying? He's saying John the Baptist was someone who was a light, who was burning, he was shining. And why, how was he a burning, shining light? Well, John bore witness of the truth, and John actually testified of me. John was the guy that ran around and said, behold the Lamb of God that takes away the sin of the world. Like, this was his mission and his purpose, was to point to Jesus and to bear testimony to the truth of Jesus. And Jesus says, when he did that, he became a light of sorts, and he began to show people the way to me. He was a burning and a shining light. What is he talking about? He's talking about John the Baptist basically doing the work of evangelism, taking the light of Jesus to other people and bearing witness to the truth of Jesus so that other people can be brought to Jesus. He's doing the work of an evangelist. This is something that John the Baptist did, and he shined. He became a light, but it's not just like, well, good for him, John the Baptist. You know, I'm glad that he could do that. No. It's something that you and I can do as well. We can receive the light of Jesus, and we can actually testify into the truth, and we can begin to show people the truth of Jesus, and in so doing, we shine as well. I meet people often just in pastoral ministry and in church conversations who more or less say, I love that John was like this epic evangelist. And I love when people tell other people about Jesus. Like, I'm all for it. I'll give some money to missions, but it's not for me. You know, that's the pastor's job, the people who have a lot of theological training, good for them, but I'm not a pastor. That's the missionary's job. They've been sent out, they've been commissioned, they know more than I do, good for them. That's the extrovert's job. You know, they like to talk to people. Let them go tell people about Jesus all day long. I'm an introvert, it's not for me. And I meet people often that they put themselves in this little subset of Christianity that is the zone where I don't have to share my faith. I don't need to do what John did. I don't need to bear witness to the truth of Jesus. That's not my job. And I'm here to lovingly, but pastorally and clearly tell you, no, that is your job. If you are a follower of Jesus, then all of us have a responsibility to testify unto the truth of Jesus and to be a burning and a shining light in that way. All of us have that responsibility. No matter if you're introverted or extroverted, no matter if you're male or female, no matter if you've been in the faith a long time or a short amount of time, all of us share that responsibility. A responsibility to open our mouth and to speak of the truth of Jesus. Don't shy away from that. Don't think that it's not for you. It is for you. I meet another group of people who completely believe that's for them, but their version of sharing the truth of Jesus is just sharing like truth generically, where I want to share spiritual truth, religious truth, maybe even biblical or theological truth, but they never get around to Jesus. These are the people that say, I shared my faith all day, every day. Like this week, I've had all these conversations. I've shared my faith all week long. Tell me about them. Well, me and my coworker, we got in this conversation about like the end times, what's happening. And I went to Revelation. I showed him that the locusts were helicopters and how those helicopters are going to come. And I was sharing my faith with them. And then I got in this other conversation, and they were really like confused. They didn't know if Adam had a belly button or not. And so I was able to show them like why Adam would have had a belly button, and for sure we know him and Eve both did. And then this my neighbor, he was wondering like, is it a sin if I curse in my dreams? Like, do I have to confess that or not? And I showed him how he needed to. And I've been sharing my faith all week long. And it's like, you're so close. You're having religious conversations, but none of them actually turn to Jesus. You're talking about things that are religious and things that are spiritual. You may even be pulling out Bible verses, but you never got to Jesus. The goal of us bearing witness to the truth is not just general truth like religious conversations. The goal is actually to talk about Jesus and to say how he has changed my life and he can change your life, and look what he's come and look at what he's done, and you need to believe on him. And if you have a lot of spiritual conversations, but they're never about Christ, then that actually, you're not having the conversations that need to be had. John was someone who had a lot of conversations, but he was sure to testify unto the truth of Jesus. He was about the good news of Jesus. While we're on topic, on the idea of letting the truth shine for you, do know that it is possible to tell the truth and to share the truth in a way that is not in accord with the truth. It's possible for you to say truthful things, but to do it in a way that really is out of harmony with the truth. Because as Christians, we are told very clearly that we are, yes, to tell the truth and to tell the truth of Jesus, but we are to do it in a particular way. Actually, the Apostle Paul gives us a great, not just hint, but clear window into how we should do this when he tells us in Colossians chapter number 4 that we actually are to let our speech, and this is specifically speech to an unbelieving world, we should let our speech always be with grace, seasoned with salt, that ye may know how ye ought to answer every man. Well, Pastor, what if someone asks me a question and I don't know how to answer them? How should I answer them? It's not so much in the specific answer you give and in the details, it's oftentimes about how you give the answer. And Paul says our speech should always be gracious, and it should be seasoned with salt, or it should be flavorful. There should be, as we are sharing the truth with people, not this idea that now I have a hall pass to take my Bible and beat them over the head with it like it's a billy bat and just point at their sin and say, look, you're sin, you're a scoundrel, you're wrong, turn or burn, the end. No. There's an attitude and a heart disposition that we are supposed to possess as people, and the truth is supposed to be in conjunction with love and graciousness. Our words are actually supposed to be winsome and flavorful, thoughtful. We're supposed to share the truth clearly. Don't move away from that. Don't back down, don't compromise, don't hesitate to share the truth, but do it in a way where you're trying to win a heart more than you're trying to win an argument. That make sense? We oftentimes are so fixated on telling the truth and winning an argument that we forget to actually try to win someone's heart. And it's really not that complicated. Think about yourself. Do you like to be talked down to? Do you like someone to belittle you and treat you like you know nothing? No, you don't. Do you like it when someone tries to shove something down your throat? No, you don't. They're no different. You belittling somebody and talking down to them and trying to shove it down their throat is not something that's going to be effective. You may tell the truth all the while, but you're telling the truth in a way that is not in accord with the truth. We are to be these light bearers who take the truth, and not just truth generally speaking, but the truth of Jesus, and we take it to the world with words that are truthful, yes, but loving and gracious and thoughtful. Winsome words. John the Baptist was someone who was honestly very masterful at this. And Jesus said, that guy, even though I don't need the testimony of man, I'm telling you that testimony, it was a burning and a shining light because he bore witness to the truth. May that be us. You also find that there's a guy by the name of Paul, the Apostle Paul, who is also said to be this example of someone who gives light. And we learn that the Apostle Paul does it in a very similar way to John the Baptist, but the Apostle Paul was very keen on shining light through his testimony. It was still the truth of Jesus, but it was through specifically his testimony. And you find this actually in Acts chapter 26, where Paul is, in fact, sharing his testimony. He's talking about his story. And notice what it says in this little episode. It's remarkable, truthfully. In Acts 26, verse 16, we're told that Paul was told by Jesus to rise, stand upon thy feet, for I have appeared unto thee for this purpose. I want to make you a minister and a witness, both, two things, both of the things which thou hast seen and of those things which will appear unto thee. Paul, get up. I got a purpose for you. You are going to be a minister and a witness, and you are going to testify and to witness of the things which you've seen and the things which you're going to see. You are going to take really your personal experience, the things that have happened to you and the things that are going to happen to you. You are going to take those anecdotes, those stories, those experiences, and you are going to be a witness with those experiences on my behalf. And watch this, verse 17. Delivering thee from the people and from the Gentiles unto whom now I send thee, to open their eyes, to turn them from darkness to light, from the power of Satan unto God, that they may receive forgiveness of sins and inheritance among them which are sanctified by faith that is in me. Now there's a lot there, but it's clearly saying, if you pay attention to the end of the section, that they are going to receive forgiveness of sins. They're going to be turned from Satan to God. They are going to do this by faith in Jesus. But you're also clearly told that Paul was going to be someone who was used to turn them from darkness to light because of his testimony of what Jesus had done in his life. Now, I'm not only thankful for this example, I am thankful for the relief that it takes, at least off of me, and I think should of you as well. Because if you're not careful, you will hear from a pastor or from church, you can shine the light of Jesus and you need to tell the truth. I just said that. You need to actually tell the truth of Jesus. Don't get distracted by side religious conversations. Get on topic and get with Jesus. So do it that way. And don't do it in a way that is condemning, that is meant just to look down your nose at people, that is meant to belittle people or belliger people. Okay, so you said do it this way and don't do it this way, and you start to have kind of these rules of engagement, and if you're not careful, you start to get scared, you start to get confused, you start to be timid and gun shy of like, I'm scared I'm going to do it wrong. Anyone ever been there where you wanted to share your faith with someone, but you were just scared you were going to do it wrong? Well, thank God for this section of scripture about the Apostle Paul. Because you know how the Apostle Paul did it? Who was a very effective evangelist and saw a lot of people turn from darkness to light. Saw a lot of people put their faith in Jesus. How did he do it? He just used his story. He testified of the things that God had done in his life and the things that God was going to do in his life. He just used his story. It was that simple. And for you, here's what you need to know. When it comes to sharing the good news of Jesus, you don't need to know a lot, but you do need to know Jesus. If you know Jesus, you got enough. You say, but I never went to seminary. I never took a theology class. I haven't even done like groups or Sunday school yet. I'm new to faith. I don't know as much as my dad did. None of that matters. None of it matters. It doesn't matter so much of what you know. It's more of who you know. If you know Jesus, you know enough. You need to find where Jesus intersected your story and where he's impacted your life, and then just go share that. That's all you need to do. That will be a conversation that is about Jesus. It'll be a conversation that is likely very winsome because people like testimonials. Even businesses know this. This is why businesses will put in their TV commercials or on their website or in their Instagram ads, they'll put customer testimonials because customer testimonials are powerful tools. So when you are able to share your testimony, it will be appealing in some ways. It will be about Jesus, and it's something that you know. You don't have to take a class to know your story. You already know your story. You sharing your faith and being a light that Jesus uses is almost as simple as you just telling people what Jesus has done for you. It's about that simple. You don't have to overcomplicate it. Notice even the words that it used of John. John bore witness unto the truth. Notice what it said about Paul in verse 16. I've appeared unto you to make you a minister and a witness. Now, what do we know about witnesses? If a witness takes the witness stand in a court of law, what is their job? Their job is to tell the truth about what they saw, what they heard, what they observed. That's their job. Their job is not to convince a jury. Their job is not to know everything. Their job is to witness of what they know to be true. It is the same thing when it comes to being a light that Jesus uses to attract people to him. You want to plug into Jesus, receive Jesus, and then shine him. Well, how do I shine him? I just simply have to open my mouth and be a witness. I don't have to worry about convincing them. I don't have to worry about my closing rate. Like, God is not a sales manager in heaven that is tracking how many opportunities you had with people and how effective you are at closing them. That's not what he does. You are way more a postman than a salesman. It's your job to deliver the message, not to sell the message. It's your job just to tell people, I'm a witness. Here's what Jesus has done in my life, and to let them make decisions for themselves. It's not your job to convert them. Paul even actually talked about this in Corinthians when he said that, hey, when it comes to like spiritual sowing and reaping and sharing Jesus with people, I planted some spiritual seed, Apollos, he watered some spiritual seed, but God gave the increase. It wasn't really me, it wasn't really Apollos, like God's at work in all of this. All I do is faithfully show up and deliver the message. You want to be a light? Well, John the Baptist was a light. Paul was a light. How were they a light? They shared the truth of Jesus. They shared their own testimony. They testified of Jesus. Remember the woman at the well? John chapter number 4. The woman at the well has this amazing conversation and comes to a point where she puts her faith in Jesus. And she, honestly, if you read the conversation, she had some bad theology. Her life was a mess. There was a lot going on. But she puts her faith in Jesus. And she immediately is turned loose to go be a light for Jesus. No denominational backing, no funding, no doctrinal classes. What did she have? She had her story. You have got to check out this guy who knew everything I'd ever done. I'm telling you, there's nobody like him. You've got to go meet him. You got to talk to him. He's special. She just began to tell people what Jesus had done for her, and wouldn't you know it, the townspeople, they're like in droves. People came out to meet Jesus and to talk to him. She was a very effective light because she had received the light of Jesus and she was willing to go tell other people. It's not more complicated than that. It's really not. You say, but you don't know, my family, they're going to be mad at me. You don't know my coworkers. They're going to hate that I'm talking about religion at work. You don't know. Listen, I'm sure there's 18,000 I don't knows. I'm sure there are. But I do know this. We're supposed to be a light. I know that. I may not know a lot, but I do know we're supposed to be a light. And both John and Paul are these examples of people who said, I'm going to receive and I'm going to give. So that leads us to Matthew chapter number 5. We're told to shine the truth. We're told to shine our testimony. And we're told to shine tenaciously. That really is kind of the core idea behind Matthew 5 when Jesus looks at his disciples after he, the light of the world, come as light for our darkness, looks at them and says, all right, now you're the light of the world. You're the light of the world. A city that's set on a hill cannot be hid. What's the idea there? Don't hide. You are a light. You are not meant to hide your light. Verse 15. Neither do men light a candle and put it under a bushel, but on a candlestick, and it giveth light unto all that are in the house. What's the idea? The idea is don't hide your light. It's the same idea. You don't light a candle and put it under a bushel and hide the light. No, you put it on a stick and you allow it to light people. So let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. 3 times in a row, you have the very same idea. You're a light, so don't hide it. Don't hide your light. Go let your light shine. What is he telling you? He's telling you at least that you're going to have moment or maybe many moments where you are tempted to exhibit hiding behavior. Where you are a light, you have received Jesus, but for one reason or another, you will become gun-shy, bashful, timid, scared, and you will begin to hide your light. And he's trying to say in no uncertain terms, don't do that. It's a fatal flaw. Don't hide your light. This is where the children's song that many of us sang in Sunday school classes or VBS growing up comes from. I'm not going to make you sing it this morning, but this little light of mine, right? You get your pointer fingers out? I'm going to let it shine, this little light of mine. Then verse number 2, hide it under a bush. It's technically a bushel, but hide it under a bush. Oh no. What are we singing? What are we singing in Matthew 5? Then the third verse, don't let Satan blow it out. I'm not really sure about the theology of that. I don't think Satan can blow out your light once you receive Jesus. But it was the most fun verse as a kid, right? Because you never sang, don't let Satan blow it out. You sang, don't let Satan right in your neighbor's face, right? Whoever your best friend was next to you, you like spit directly into their face. Every kid did it at the same time. There was just this mist that fills the whole room, and then you go home 2 days later, every kid has pneumonia, and the parents are like, what happened? Well, that's what happened. We all sang This Little Light of Mine in Sunday school. A simple but profound song. I have got a light, I'm gonna let it shine, and I'm not gonna hide it. Oh boy, if we could live that out. All the times we talk ourselves out of letting our light shine for 1,000 different reasons. I remember going through college, my bachelor's degree and even my master's degree and then my MDiv. I ended up in sales jobs. They worked well for me. I was able to kind of learn the system and talk to people, and I did okay at them. And I can specifically remember at Sears, I sold appliances. It was a straight commission job, and I loved it because I got to make as much money in 25 hours as most of my buddies did, working 40 hours at another job, so I loved it. But there's ups and downs with all of that. But part of our rubric, because when you're in a sales job, they grade you on certain things, and how many accessories did you sell, and what were your sales numbers, total sales, and all these sorts of things. But one of them was credit cards. Now, I'm like 18 or 19 at the time. I don't even know if I had a credit card personally, and I'm supposed to sell credit cards to people, Sears cards. I didn't know how to do it. I couldn't figure it out in my first month or two. So I asked someone in the store, I said, who's the best credit card salesman in the whole store? They said, Debbie. I said, Debbie? Debbie, the cashier, the clothes lady? Like, Debbie. I'm like, for real? Like, big frizzy hair Debbie? They're like, yeah, had Debbie. I'm like, all right. So I went to Debbie. I said, Debbie, I hear you're the best at selling like Sears cards. She said, I am. I said, how many do you sell a month? She's like, yeah, like 100. I said, 100 every month? She said, yeah. I said, Debbie, tell me your secret, please. And here was her secret. She said, I never qualify a customer. I never try to qualify who would want a Sears card, who wouldn't want a Sears card, who will be accepted, who has good credit, who has bad credit. I never do it. I ask everyone, would you like to open up a Sears card today and save 10%? I said, that's it? She said, that's it. If they say no, they say no. I don't argue with them. I don't fight with them. But I say it to everybody. If they're here for a return, I ask them. If they ask me for a price check on a piece of clothing, I ask them. If they're here to buy something, I ask them. I just ask everybody. I said, Debbie, I'm going to try that. And sure enough, it worked. I stopped qualifying customers, and I just asked everyone with every transaction that I had, would you like to open up a Sears card today and save 10%? And sure enough, I hit my numbers every single month. It was as simple as just consistently delivering a little message. Us sharing our faith, I hate to compare it to a Sears card, but it's not that much more complicated. The idea behind letting your light shine and not putting it under a bushel is like, stop qualifying everybody. Stop trying to figure out, are they going to be receptive? Are they not going to be receptive? Is now a good time? Is their mom going to be mad? And going through all these mental gymnastics of trying to push it through 18,000 different filters of if it would be the right time or not the right time, or if I should or if I shouldn't, just do it. Just tell people what Jesus has done in your life and let the chips fall where they may. That's it. Tenaciously let your light shine over and over and over. Don't be gun shy. Don't be bashful. Yeah, they may get mad at you. Now, the statistics tell us that less than 5% of people actually get mad when you share your faith with them. It's a very small group. But they may. They may not appreciate it. They may tell you you should never talk about religion. They may say all those things. But just consistently share the message. I was reading a couple months ago, and I came across an article that I thought was fascinating. Admittedly, the headline was meant to be provocative and to kind of catch your attention, but it was an article by Michael Brown, and it was in Religion Unplugged. The article was what the church could learn from LGBTQ activists. I thought that's an interesting title. I want to read this. He gave about 10 different things, but the first 4, I'm going to give you his first 4, where even a tiny minority with determination and vision can change the world. Number 2 was you must come out boldly. Number 3 was change did not come about by going to LGBT or gay meetings, but rather by being LGBTQ 24/7. Number 4 was you must focus on changing the world, not escaping from it. And I read that. Be bold. Don't let your number scare you, even though you're a minority. Live it. Don't just go to a meeting. Live it. Don't try to escape the world. Try to change it. And I thought, here's this guy looking at these activists and trying to learn lessons from the church. But I'm not so sure the activists didn't look at the words of Jesus and learn lessons from him. Because I'm pretty sure that like recipe of don't be scared that you're a minority, be bold with it, live it, don't just go to church and talk about it and then be done, but actually live it 24/7, and don't try to escape the world, but be in the world. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what Jesus told his disciples to do. I'm pretty sure that was like the formula that he gave that I think that we've just departed from. That we have decided that, you know what, we live in a Christian country, there's not that much persecution, things are okay. We can kind of just pick and choose. I'll be Christian here, but not there. I'll tell the dirty jokes with the guys at work, or at least just kind of ignore them, and I won't be a witness or testimony there, but when I go to church in my group, I will. And I think that we have just really muddied the waters on what it means to be a light for Jesus. It's not that complicated. Tell the truth of Jesus. Use your story. Use your testimony. And do it boldly. Do it tenaciously. Don't exhibit hiding behavior. And I think that what we will find as individuals, as a church community, is exactly what John the Baptist and the Apostle Paul and the disciples of Jesus found. What did they find? They found that they could be a light. They found that the light was super attracted and many people would actually come to faith and believe on Jesus and that people needed Jesus. They also did find, if we're honest, that there were a group of people that didn't like him because of it. They found all that. But was not the world turned upside down because of a small minority that were willing to live it boldly and be in the world but not of the world? Is that a thing of yesteryear? Is that something that worked in the first century but that doesn't work in the 21st century? Is it something that worked like in Judaism but it doesn't work in America? I don't think so. I think that all of us have the capacity and the ability to light bright it up, to receive the light of Jesus and to let our light shine. And as we go into 2025, may we do that.